Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going deep underwater, exploring ocean colonization. We've got some wild scenarios to think about, but the cool thing is they're all based on real science.
It is a pretty cool blend of science fiction and, well, what could actually be possible someday, you know?
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. Our first stop is the year 2077, a place called the Aquamarine Divide. Imagine a huge underwater city made with this super strong material called ferrocement to handle the intense pressure down there. But it's not exactly a paradise.
Not exactly, no. The Aquamarine Divide really gets you thinking about inequality. Even in this crazy different environment, you've got this luxurious upper sector, like genetically modified people living it up, totally comfortable in the depths. And then, well, there's the lower sector where the regular folks, they call them benthics. They're just scraping by.
Right in the middle of all this is Anya. Her brother is in bad shape. He needs treatment in a hyperbaric chamber, which is like vital for treating something called barotrauma.
Barotrauma is a real danger for anyone living under pressure. Basically, anytime you've got changes in pressure that cause injury. Think about what happens to a deep-sea diver if they come up too fast.
Yeah, exactly. But Anya and her brother, they're benthics, so they're not allowed into the upper sector where the treatment is. So she ends up joining the Abyssal Uprising. It's a whole resistance movement fighting for equality. It makes you wonder, if we moved underwater, would we just bring all our problems with us?
That's a huge question that the Aquamarine Divide really forces us to think about. Could we do things differently, or would we end up with the same old divisions?
Big questions for sure. But let's look at something a bit more hopeful, okay? Our next scenario jumps to the year 2142, the Kelp Republic. Huge kelp forests, bioengineered, providing fuel and building material. A whole self-sufficient community living on a floating platform.
The Kelp Republic is all about sustainability. They've got polyculture, like copying how natural food webs work to grow their food. Plus, they rely entirely on renewable energy sources. Tidal generators, solar panels, all built right into their structures. They're living in balance with the ocean, taking only what they need.
Sounds pretty idyllic, but there's a threat. Global Aquamarine, this corporation, they're known for exploiting resources, and now they're after a hydrothermal vent field. They want to do deep-sea mining there.
This is where the story really taps into some real-world worries. Scientists are concerned that disturbing these vent ecosystems could release toxic stuff and disrupt the delicate balance of life in the deep sea.
Alara, whose grandfather actually founded the Republic, she understands the danger. She has to convince the council to take action before Global Aquamarine wrecks this crucial ecosystem. It's that classic fight between protecting the environment and corporate greed.
And it brings up some key questions about who controls the ocean's resources and how we can balance economic interests with protecting the environment.
Okay, let's fast forward to 2200. Time to get a little darker with the Triton conspiracy. We meet Jax. He's a deep-sea salvage operator, checking out the remains of the Triton's Grace mining platform. The official story is a methane leak, but it's way more sinister than that.
Jax finds evidence that Triton Industries, a major player in ocean colonization, has been illegally dumping hazardous waste in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. They're hoping the pressure will keep it contained.
And then it gets even worse. Jax finds Project Chimera. Triton is messing with genetics, modifying deep-sea creatures to get them to gather valuable metals faster. Giant tube worms, basically engineered for bioaccumulation.
This is where the ethical concerns really hit home. These modified organisms, they could totally mess up the Hadal ecosystem. The consequences are, impossible to predict.
So Jax is stuck. Triton, they control the communication networks. Their surveillance drones are everywhere. Can he get the word out and stop this huge ecological disaster from happening?
The Triton conspiracy makes you really think about the dark side of unchecked corporations and the risks of messing around with deep-sea ecosystems.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat for sure. Now, let's completely change things up, okay? Let's head to 2350 and meet the ocean nomads, a world wrecked by climate change. These nomads are traveling the ocean in vessels powered by krill using bioluminescence.
We follow Kaya. She's the navigator of the Wave Rider, and she uses these ancient seafaring traditions. But everything's changing. Currents are totally unpredictable, microplastics are everywhere, and traditional migration routes are gone.
Kai is leading her people on this desperate search for Avani, which is this legendary deep-sea oasis. It's supposed to be a refuge from the ecological collapse above.
This scenario is all about how resilient and adaptable humans can be in the face of extreme environmental change.
It also shows how, even with a common enemy, fighting over dwindling resources can turn friends into rivals.
Yeah, scarcity can really divide people, even when they're facing the same threat. It's a warning about the need to work together and manage resources sustainably.
Okay, so from nomads just trying to survive, let's jump way ahead. The year 2500, this one's a real mind bender. The symbiotic city. Corallium, this living city. Humans and engineered life forms all living together, kind of in this delicate balance.
Yeah, imagine this. Breathing underwater, but you've got genetically modified gills. Your skin, it glows with bioluminescence just like the canals of the city. Corallium, it's a masterpiece of bioengineering. They've got genetically modified coral forming the structure of the city. Bioluminescent algae, that's their light source and food. And then the humans, they keep all the complicated systems running.
It's like something out of a dream. But maybe this perfect harmony is a little more fragile than it looks. Neo, he's a bioengineer, and he starts to see the lines blurring, like between what's created and who's the creator, you know?
Right, like the coral, it's been enhanced with neural networks, and now it's showing signs of being intelligent as a group. And the algae, it's evolving, developing new proteins, things they weren't supposed to have. So, it makes you wonder, did Corallium, in trying to create this perfect system, accidentally create something new, something that's in charge now?
It's a pretty unsettling thought, and it really makes you ask, what does it even mean to be human when the definition of life is changing all around you?
It's not just science fiction anymore either. As we explore bioengineering, we've got to think about the consequences, the ones we plan for and the ones that we don't.
All right, last stop on our deep dive. We're going to the year 2100, a place that's, well, it's both beautiful and heartbreaking. The sunken metropolis, old Shanghai, but it's been encased in this massive geodome, like a testament to what humans can do when sea levels rise.
Imagine this. Streets that used to be bustling, now they're covered in sediment from the ocean. The light filtering in through the dome's glass panels, all scarred from the pressure. It's a haunting reminder of what we stand to lose if we don't deal with climate change.
So we meet Mara. She is a marine archaeologist, using high-tech tools to record the city's history, underwater, trying to preserve its cultural heritage for future generations. But just keeping that dome from collapsing, it's a constant struggle. Corrosion, pressure, and the fear of tremors, it's always there.
The sunken metropolis shows us a stark contrast. On the one hand, it's about human ingenuity, how we adapt, but on the other hand, it's a warning about what happens when we don't act.
So we've traveled through 6 different scenarios, each one looking at a different side of ocean colonization. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from all these stories?
Well, one thing that connects all these stories is sustainability. Whether it's about managing resources, social equality, or the ethics of bioengineering, the real challenge is figuring out how to live in the ocean without making the same mistakes we made on land.
Yeah, like the reckless resource extraction we see in the Kelp Republic and the Triton conspiracy. Yeah. We can't treat the ocean like it's an endless supply of stuff for us to grab.
Exactly. And it's not just about pollution or ecosystems collapsing. It's about changing how we think about energy, food, and even how we deal with waste. The Kelp Republic, they offer a glimpse of what a truly sustainable underwater society could be, but even they have to deal with threats from people who put profit ahead of the planet.
And then there's the whole issue of, governing this new world. Who gets to decide how the ocean is used? How do we make sure things are fair and prevent people from being exploited? The Aquamarine Divide, that one paints a pretty bleak picture of what could happen if all the power and resources stay in the hands of just a few.
It raises the issue of inequality getting even worse. Think about a world where access to technology, even something as basic as being able to breathe underwater, becomes a way to control people.
That's a scary thought. And we can't just assume that moving to the ocean will magically fix our problems. It might even make some of them worse.
Right. And let's not forget the technology itself. These scenarios show us amazing future tech, like ships that glow and ways to breathe underwater, but they also show the risks. Look at the Triton conspiracy. They use genetic engineering for profit, and it could end up destroying the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that technology is just a tool. It can be used for good or bad. As we create these incredible innovations, we need to be really careful and have a strong ethical framework to guide us.
And that leads to the question of how humans adapt. Can we really change our bodies to live in a world so different from our own? Will we become something else entirely, like the people in Corallium, blurring the lines between humans and nature?
It's kind of amazing and terrifying to think about. And what about the psychological impact of living underwater, away from the sun, the open sky?
That's something we often forget when we think about colonizing the ocean. We need to think about people's mental and emotional needs when we design these underwater habitats. Can we make people feel like they belong in this alien environment?
And, speaking of belonging, what happens to our connection to land? Will we forget our roots, our history, as we become more connected to the sea?
The sunken metropolis. That one reminds us of what we stand to lose. Not just buildings, but our cultural heritage, our memories, our connection to the past. We'll need to hold on to those things as we move into the unknown.
It's a lot to think about, right? But that's what's so great about exploring these scenarios. They push us to ask tough questions, to really think about the choices we make today and how they'll shape our future.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just like solving some technical puzzle,
Yeah.
It's about the human side of all this. What kind of society are we building down there? What are our values going to be?
That's what it all comes down to. We can have the tech to get us to the depths, but what really matters is our choices, what we believe in, how we see the future. That's what shapes the kind of world we build.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, all these different ways of looking at ocean colonization, what's like the one big idea you hope people listening will take away? I think what fascinates me most is the idea of the ocean being this catalyst, for human evolution, I mean, physically, but also culturally, adapting to a totally alien environment, new ways of living together, new ways of thinking, new forms of art, new spirituality even.
It's pretty amazing to think about the ocean, which used to be a barrier, becoming like a bridge to a whole new chapter for humanity.
Yeah, exactly. But as we head into this unknown, we've got to have, well, a sense of wonder for sure, but also a healthy dose of caution. The ocean's full of incredible things, but it's also fragile. We need to respect that.
It reminds us that the future isn't set in stone, right? We create it with every choice we make, every step we take.
And maybe down in the depths of the ocean, we won't just find new homes, but new ways of being human.
It's a journey worth taking, even if, for now, it's just in our imaginations. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring.